If you've got a child who struggles working in a group, perhaps you sit and work with that group. Or, you know, if you've got a child who's going to go off task after 10 minutes, you plan short activities for that child to do. So basically, you're managing the class, but you're managing the individual children who would be a problem. And then if you manage them, the rest of the class will start to fall into place, hopefully.
It has to relate to developing the children's independence in terms of managing their own behaviour. And it has to be directly related to that. I think certainly when I teach in infants where it's all about the children's independence, definitely, and therefore behaviour is often linked to levels of independence.
Students aren't really aware of how their behaviour is impacting on their learning, and I don't think it's on purpose really. I think that young people just they haven't found that way of working yet, and I think sometimes, you know, holding up a mirror to them and you know, explaining what happens, but not leaving it until the end of the session. So you can structure your learning session around it, for example, and have regular evaluations. And sometimes you have to let the students go if you're setting up a piece of group work and they have a group task and they've been totally distracted throughout the whole thing. You have to build in opportunities and say, what went well there? Why did it go well and what didn't go well? And allow, just for 2 minutes, to allow them to reflect, and they'll come to that decision themselves.
It's very easy to miss, for example, this, you know, to look at a child and feel that somehow there are problems, and miss that child might be very, very successful, very skilled at an aspect that only emerges in the half an hour when they do an art lesson or a PE lesson or something, and recognise that and praise that, and really catch children being good. You don't go in with the attitude of, that's a naughty child, therefore I'm either going to be overly positive or overly negative. You have to treat them all the same.
And give them a blank sheet each time. Sometimes it's you really, both teacher and student, need to put the rest behind us, and sometimes let's start again.
If somebody feels there's an injustice, then problems really are going to start. Say, if you always discuss with them and say, do you think that's fair? Is that what we've decided? Then, you know, the children will go along, because they know that is what's been decided in advance.
I've got children whose target is to come in and sit down straight away for 10 minutes. And if you know that, you say, look, Jordan, you need to come in the first 10 minutes. I know your teacher expects this of you. Your mum's written, you know, she's signed up for your behaviour plan. And then again, it makes it powerful. It makes it that you've got some authority.
Where you've got a child who you know maybe struggles to listen or to concentrate fully, it's quite a good idea to have that child quite close to the front of the classroom, because that's where you're going to be spending most of your sort of direct teaching time. And then it could be that if you know a child's not concentrating, you can just move a little bit closer to them that will draw them back in, or maybe just have a little sign, or even just, you know, like a little sort of touch on the arm, you know, not a tap, just literally to touch them on the arm to remind them, you know, where they need to be concentrating. One example of one child that I'm teaching at the moment, who at the start of the year really did not get on with anybody else in the classroom, and wherever he sat, he caused problems with the other children, sort of, you know, name calling, kicking under the desk, and he was really, really into his music. So I use a lot of music in the classroom to do like short-timed activities, so the children know when to start and when to stop. And he actually sits and controls the CD player. I've actually started to accept him a lot more now, so he can actually go and sit, he can work in a group, and you know, they don't ostracise him anywhere near now as much as they used to. Asking the previous teacher, because they might give you some sort of some background of home life, but suddenly makes you think, now I realise why that's happening, and by speaking to the child in this way, it's actually making the matter worse. Whereas if I dealt with it maybe in a more positive way, then the issues for that child are going to cease to exist. Also, getting the parents involved, I think, is vital. As long as the parents don't feel that you're blaming them, but you say to them, we'd like to work together to help with this particular issue. I've always found that the parents are very keen to be on board, and actually to think, well, thank goodness somebody is recognising that this is a problem as well, and it's not just me on my own anymore. So definitely involve the parents.
One of the most important things in dealing with any behavioural issue is getting to know your students. It's very easy just to get to know the badly behaved ones first, because they're the ones that are causing you problems, they're the ones that you come into contact with. It's equally important to get to know the others as well. If you take time out to get to know them as individuals, and then they know you, trust is going to start to evolve.
Finding out from them, why did you do that? What could you have done differently? So talking through things and looking for ways of making sure that it doesn't happen again.
Always address the behaviour rather than the individual. Don't attack a student as such. You're not berating the person. It's their behaviour that you're questioning, and it's essential to maintain that difference between them. I don't like the way you're behaving. I don't like this particular issue about you, rather than the individual. Always focus on the behaviour.
You can't expect a child not to shout at you if you're shouting at them. So I will often say, hang on a minute, I'm not shouting at you, I'm speaking to you politely. That's the way I expect to be spoken to. And again, that helps to take the tension out of the situation quickly as well.
One of the most effective ways of trying to change that dynamic with the student is through marking. And I think students read comments and they read, particularly if you don't put a mark next to it or you don't put a 9 out of 10 next to it, I think a comment is much better. And I think I would look carefully at what that student's producing and selectively mark and comment, and you can build a relationship with the student through marking.
First of all, you need to take a few deep breaths and remain calm. I think you need to keep an eye on the whole class while you're dealing with the individual. I think you need to be consistent to your whole class rewards again and go back and say, look, I'm not happy this is happening. Yeah. What can we do about it, and talk about it. And I think take the emotion out of it as much as you can. I think you can say to children, I think there's I and you statements, isn't there? And you can say, I get really upset when you're pushing Fred on the stairs because it might hurt Fred, rather than saying, I'm really sick of you. Because straight away, you're becoming more aggressive, the child will react more aggressively, especially if you're dealing with children who do have behavioural problems at home. And because that's what, it's fighting fire with fire, and I think it'll just get louder and louder and louder, and you'll end up in an argument.
You're going to get into a one-on-one with a pupil and you're not going to know how to get out of it, and it's okay not to know how to get out of it. I mean, I think what you were saying about having your low, calm voice is really important. I got to the point where only dogs could hear what I was saying. It was so high-pitched and so loud that, you know, the pupil just must have been, what is she talking about? So I think, you know, you need to stay calm, and you can step out of it and say, I'm not carrying on this conversation with you now, it's not going anywhere, we will talk about it later.
You've got your own class, you can have a chill-out area, so maybe it's the book corner, or maybe it's 2 or 3 tables at the front where a child goes and sits, so you remove them from the problem. If they're being a danger or they're just losing it, just say, I'm not talking to you at the moment, go and sit over there. You know you need time to calm down and reflect, and once children, you've done that a couple of times, children get used to that. Go and choose your favourite book, or go and draw a picture while you're calming down, because you're taking emotion out for yourself, but you're also taking the emotion out of the child.
The Handbook, Key Questions in Behaviour, a resource for initial teacher training students, their tutors and mentors, is available to accompany this DVD. Please visit the Behaviour for Learning website for more information. www.behaviourforlearning.ac.uk